Easton was founded in 1752. In those days, Easton was filled with terrified frontier farmers and their families who were looking for protection from the Indian war parties that were massacring entire families. From its very beginning, Easton has been the battleground of ghosts. Indian ghosts looking to reclaim the land which belonged to their ancestors, and white settler ghosts of farm families who were killed, scalped, and their farms burnt to the ground. Through much of its history, Easton has been a center of transportation and commerce, with its early network of canals, then railroads, and later highways, providing easy access for all sorts of travelers. Many came for work, while others just came for a good time and adventure. Sometimes there were tragic consequences.
Well, you know.
So join us tonight as we share with you the stories of Easton's darker side. One that includes tales of ghosts, murder, unfortunate disasters, pure evil acts, and loose women. Flash photography is highly encouraged along this trail, and sharing your Haunted Easton Facebook pages, or join us on Haunted Easton to post those on Facebook if you will. Remember, stay together, watch for traffic, and find a buddy or two or three. If we lose someone, it will not be the first time that someone has disappeared here in Easton. Join me.
Make sure you have your glow sticks out so we can see them.
The rest of you fill it in the back. Front line stays where they are.
Squish in. Squish on in there. Come on. You can squish more. Except I need to get this.
This is the story of the quarry explosion. In a little industrial community along the Delaware, not more than 5 miles north of here, Sans Eddy sits on a large deposit of cement rock. Here, the Lehigh Portland Cement Company operates a quarry that at places is 135 feet deep and 680 feet long. On March 26, 1942, a team of men were drilling holes and placing dynamite. They had just taken a mid-morning coffee break when 20 tons of dynamite exploded without warning.
You hear someone scream. The cops show up. We heard reports of gunfire.
When the final body count was done, 31 people were declared dead. And although only 7 could be possibly identified, the tragedy left 18 widows and 63 fatherless children. Some say the blast was felt for a radius of 50 miles. One report stated that it was felt from as far away as Newark, New Jersey. In Bethlehem, many concluded that the steel plant had exploded. Buildings shook, doors slammed, windows shattered, and people were violently thrown to the ground from miles around. A sheet of flame swept the quarry, killing everyone in its path. Those who first responded to the blast site found sheer chaos. Terribly mangled body parts were hanging from trees. All over the ground, up to 300 yards away, corpses were strewn about for a distance of 1/8 of a mile. May all of the souls who suffered through this horrible tragedy,
Rest in peace.
may they rest in peace.
Pieces.
Join me.
New band name for explosion.
18 widows in West Middle Irish settlement. Divide 63 by 18. It's like 5 kids a family.
Just south of the city, there is a mountain known as Hexenkoff Rock. Before the colonial settlers arrived, the Lenape Indians used this place for rituals that would take the evil or sickness out of the human body and transfer it to the rock itself. This spiritual place quickly became popular with the very superstitious Germans, and it was used by both doctors and witches for countless rituals. It was believed that all of the evil that has been collected over the years caused this rock to glow in the moonlight. A gathering of witches at Hexenkoff would usually result in a tragedy happening to a good, God-fearing local farmer, or more likely, to one of their animals. This was such an accepted fact that a woman was charged in Northampton County Court for bewitching a farmer's horse to become so weak he was no longer useful. She was found guilty and sentenced to stand in the pillory in Center Square for 6 hours 4 times a year. Farmers in this area of Hexenkoff would often awake to find their horses bathed in sweat, a sure sign that the witches had borrowed them during the night. Even today, an unusual number of car accidents occur within 100 feet of the entrance to Hexenkoff, proof that modern technology is no match for the ancient art. The hill itself has long lost its eerie glow. Skeptics speculate that the glow has been caused by a coating of minerals that had eroded away over time. But some say it's because the evil spirits are no longer trapped in this rock. They are out in the woods, roaming, looking for a new host. Maybe you. Join me. This story is known as the gas pump fire. The little-known story took place right here in 1957 at this very gas pump. Harriet and Earl Larrabee were among the elite of Easton's high society. An invitation to one of their lavish parties was much coveted. Harriet was known for her stunning looks and impeccable social graces. Incredibly, a lowly gas attendant by the name of Ron Silver caught her eye, and a torrid affair ensued. Their intense passion was simply impossible to conceal. News of their adulterous affair spread quickly throughout Easton. To be so openly coupled enraged Earl, and finally he snapped. With a gas can in hand that he had just filled, he doused Harriet and lit her aflame. Seeing this, Ron fire out. Despite her severe disfigurement, burns throughout her entire body. Harriet and Ron ran off together. They went on to have 14 children.
Irish.
Poor Earl was sent to jail. Lost everything. Social elite. No more. Join me.
Sounds like a Craigslist ad. Smiling disfigured.
This is the story of Laros, death in the pot. The Laros murders are arguably the most infamous murders in Easton's long history. The actual murders took place in a house near Sans Eddy, which is now Forks Township. In the spring of 1876, a large, respectable family of 9 persons sat down to their pleasant evening meal, little dreaming that there was death in the pot. That fateful evening, Alan Laroyce poisoned his entire family with arsenic in their coffee. Why? Why, you might ask, why? Why? Because they would not pay for him to go to college. Law school, if anything.
I missed it too.
Reporters were fortunate enough to interview Alan Laros just after the murder. Alan's own explanation of his actions were so cold, so matter-of-fact, and just a bit ridiculous that one might wonder if he was not just a little bit insane. In his statement after the murder, he was quoted as to say, "We all sat together. Clara complained first, and when I saw them all so sick and heard them screaming, I felt so sorry. I took 2 swallows of the coffee myself as I wanted to die too. I knew that if I took too much, it would kill me. I was the first person who proposed to send for a doctor." Oh, thanks. The reason that I was not taken sick as soon as the others was because I had eaten all my supper before I drank, and while the others were drinking before they ate. Ironically, Alan Laros was acquitted on a technicality and left town. He lived a very long and very lonely, sorrowful life. Join me.
It is called Death by Stage. At 6 o'clock p.m., the Reading Mail stagecoach was rapidly passing down Pomfret Street, now known as 2nd Street.
Here comes the stage!
It's good for rubbing.
At about that time, several young boys were crossing the street in front of Mr. Bachman's hotel. With them was 3 boys and the son of Mr. Sidney Down. The young boy was unable to escape the path of the stage and was instantly killed.
Oh!
My son! My son! My son!
I don't think they're actors.
My son!
They're part of the tour.
Oh my! The coroner's inquest reported that the little boy's neck was dislocated, and his head, arms, and legs were very much bruised and fractured. The inquest went on to further report that the boy met his demise while the Reading and Easton stage was driven carelessly at a rapid rate of speed down South Pomfret Street, and that the stage was driven by Jacob Willett. Willett was immediately arrested and committed to prison to later to the charge of manslaughter.
Arrest him!
I didn't see the boy!
I say hang him!
Oh my God, he was horrible!
You killed him!
He's dead! He's dead! No, oh, Sheriff, I'm trying to jump right out of the car. Go! You need to come with me. We need to follow him now.
Put him in jail!
This should be a warning to all persons who are in the habit of either driving fast or carelessly through the streets of Easton.
Don't text and drive.
You. Are there still others?
Save.
There's a lot of people. That's good.
Ano, okay. Recess over.
This is a daring act of heroism, the mill fire. What started out as seemingly quiet morning in October of 1884 turned out to be anything but that for this thriving little city on the forks of the Delaware. The still of the early morning was shattered by an incendiary fire that destroyed several businesses along the thoroughfare skirting the Lehigh River known as Dock Street. The furiously raging fire had destroyed a store, a stable, and an ice house, and was in the midst of bringing down a sawmill and nearing its engine house. The gigantic steam boiler that ran the entire mill was running out of control amidst the fire. The steam pressure was reaching 80 pounds at every moment and was expected to explode. A boiler of this size would cause tremendous damage to everything nearby and would be a catastrophe. Just then, when all hope was lost, George Kohler, an employee of the mill, courageously rushed in and risked life and limb. With flames licking his hands, he removed the safety valve, and at that moment, an iron pin, driven with terrific force, narrowly missed his head. But George wasn't the only one to narrowly escape death that morning. Lizzie Morgan, an aged and infirm seamstress, was sound asleep in a small room attached to the house. Just as the flames broke into her room, George rushed in and carried the terrified woman to safety through the thick smoke and flames. Get her, George! Get her!
Little down the line. Thank you. I'm supposed to read. I'm blind. Okay. So, here in Easton, prior to 1750, the area was essentially lawless. Rather than travel 30 miles to get justice, the county seat in Doylestown, victims of crimes would simply just cut their losses and let it alone. Soon, this brought about an establishment of a new county, Northampton, and a new county seat located here in Easton. So finally, there was law in the area. One of the first buildings that was built by the county was the prison in the southeast corner of Easton Square. In those days, there were no prison advocate groups or civil rights. You could easily find yourself locked in a 10 to a cell, in a cell the size of a modern closet. And you were left with them, and they could be diseased, and there would be nothing you could do about it. You were left there to rot, and rot they did. I can hear him rotting. The state of medical knowledge in those days was extremely primitive. Doctors didn't understand infection, no antibiotics were available, and minor wounds could easily become infected and thus fatal. A little bit of knowledge they did have, those doctors, was not wasted on the prisoners, because after all, they were criminals. The typical prisoner was at very high risk of dying from disease long before their sentence was used up. The overall poor hygiene in the jail, the lack of adequate sanitation facilities, the cold, the lack of suitable clothing, the poor quality of food and water, and the crowded conditions made the typical jail a literal breeding ground for disease. Dysentery, measles, smallpox, pneumonia, and malaria were the prisoner's greatest enemy. Amen. No one knows how many prisoners may have perished from agonizing, painful diseases on the very ground that you stand on. No records were kept on them. They were, after all, criminals. We can only hope that their contorted, diseased bodies were properly disposed of so as not to spread any more disease. Let us vacate this premises before anybody else becomes ill. Yeah, that's about right. In 1833, Charles Getter, better known as Carl, was enjoying a good life, especially with the company of the ladies. Margaret Lull claimed in front of the judge that Carl was the father of her unborn child. They were immediately married. But just 1 month later, Margaret was found dead. The indictment in the Easton court charged that Carl Getter had feloniously, willfully, and deliberately strangled his wife.
Saying ain't so.
It was so. Carl was wearing all white clothes to profess his innocence, and he was marched down Northampton Street.
I didn't do it, I tell you. You're making a terrible mistake. It wasn't me,
Okay.
man. It wasn't me.
Hang on!
I didn't do it.
Hang on!
You're making a terrible mistake.
Hang on!
You're making a terrible mistake.
Hang on!
Some 100,000
Wow.
Yeah!
gathered to see his execution.
I didn't do it. I swear I didn't do it.
When it came time for Getter to meet his maker, the first rope broke.
I told you. I'm innocent, I tell you. I'm innocent.
Back to the gallows for you.
Oh, another one?
To the horror fascination of the crowd, once again, the noose was placed around Carl's neck, and he was hung twice.
Oh, jeez.
Yes, that was one well-hung man. Carl Getter's hanging was the last public hanging in Easton. After the spectacle of Getter's death, it was felt that perhaps the public should not be subjected to such horrific views. Governor Wolfe quickly signed legislation to perform all future hangings in the jail yard on Gallows Hill. Bravo. No, he's just going to stay there. Do it.
Halloween decoration.
Moving on.
Catching words.
a flirt of olden time. Finally, we have uncovered this very story, written by Miss E.F. Elliott in 1851, published in the history of the Lehigh Valley. This story took place at the current location of the Churchman's Business School, at which time a small and primitive country house existed. Hard it is to believe this was the outermost edge of Easton. Just beyond was wilderness. Around the corner and just across the street where the old Easton Express Times building now sits was a small pond. News of a small house being furnished with new and exotic housewares soon spread throughout the village of Easton. The townswomen, busy with keeping their own homes, looked forward to Sunday, the day of rest, in which all went to church, so they might assess the new neighbors. To their surprise and horror, none of the new family appeared in church. This was clearly a dark moment. Soon after, Mrs. Winston, as we will call her, for her real name has been lost to history, was seen shopping throughout town. She was, by many accounts, bewitching. Her sparkling eyes, porcelain skin, her lovely disposition was more than any man could be expected to bear. And the more the husbands praised Mrs. Winston, the more the village wives steamed and stewed. Within weeks, gentlemen were seen visiting Mrs. Winston daily. Men of the town were taking long walks in the country with Mrs. Winston. Hardly what a working man should be doing with their time off, especially according to their wives. Finally, the townswomen of Easton had had enough and took matters into their own hands.
There she is! That's the bitch that was with my husband! There she is!
In the morning, Mrs. Winston's body was found. The death, clearly an act of violence. But the townsmen turned from justice and forgot the horror. No one ever spoke of Mrs. Winston ever again. While the structures and the people have come and gone along this stretch of Spring Garden and cross streets, many good citizens of Easton have reported to hear the scream of a woman or seen the image of sturdy ladies in bonnets walking the streets. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the tour. On behalf of the Easton Horta Tour, I would like to thank you for joining us tonight. Haunted Easton is celebrating its 12th year and is 100% volunteer. I would like to express our appreciation to the dozens of volunteers that helped to make this event possible. Let's give them a round of applause. Those of you volunteers, would you please join the rest of the cast up there? I would also like to recognize our advertising sponsor, The Morning Call,
Where's the dog?
and the Haunted Easton Tour Committee, especially Lizzie Borden, and not just Noel. Once again, this would not be possible had it not been for you guys. Think about it, folks. Think about it. All of you attending tonight should know that the proceeds from this event, along with the proceeds from the last weekend's zombie pub crawl, will be donated to support the Greater Easton Development Partnership, which is a parent of the Easton Main Street Initiative. We do truly appreciate your participation, folks. We do appreciate your support of Easton, and hope you had a wonderfully horrific time tonight. Get home safely, enjoy your nightmares, and have a good night. Oh, I do apologize. I was also instructed
make sure you guys do post those pictures if you took pictures tonight or videos to our Facebook page. Do like us on Facebook. We're here again tomorrow night. If you want to tell your friends, we can do this again tomorrow night. If you had such a good time, want to join us again, thank you and good night. I was your host this evening, Tuesday Paul. Thank you.